Hey, what's up, guys? Jim here. I got a bunch of toilet paper behind me. Wait, no, I don't. My wife and I are getting nervous about running low on toilet paper in the middle of this quarantine. But we have a really exciting call going today. So Kenton Kaufman is on the line, my main man. Kenton, you say hi to everybody.
Oh no,
I unmuted you.
I
Where'd
just
you
goofed up.
go?
I'm coming back. There we go.
We'll get it back. So
How's it going, everyone?
Ken is going to share with us. We're going to kind of go over his story and some of the stuff that he dealt with starting out, some of the obstacles that he went through, and just kind of like he's been a massive success story for us. The guy is just like a deal machine, and we're going to go into that and like his approach and how he's been successful and like what his mindset is, and then in the second half of it. We've asked Ryan Richard and to kind of come on for the second half of it, and they're going to talk about a deal that they're working on together that I don't think so. What's interesting about this deal that we're going to talk about and why I'm excited about it is it's not necessarily like the perfect deal of like, oh, hey, this is $100,000 profit. It's more of a deal on like, hey, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenton, but some stuff has kind of happened and then some challenges have happened with the deal. So it's kind of an interesting one to talk about. Is that a good summation of it? So we're gonna
Definitely.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into that as well, and we have some kind of good talking points, some good lessons that we can go through on that as well. So as far as kind of like announcements and updates, I wanted to reiterate, guys, the vendor section in the Deal Hub is sweet. I think it's like amazing. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, make sure that you do. We're going to work on getting all the vendor savings in it. We don't quite have all of them in there yet and have it organized, but it's still a great resource. I think there's over 200 vendors in it. And when you work with our vendors, just make sure that you review them so then other people can see them and we can have like an ever-breathing, living list of people that, you know, if vendors are starting to kind of drop down in their quality, well, the rest of the network needs to know that. And then also there's a new Submit Joint Ventures link. If you guys want to do some partner deals with us, there's a link in the Deal Hub that you can click on the left-hand side, and you just have to click on it, fill out the web form, and send it over to us, and we'll look into if it makes sense to partner on the deal with you or not, and kind of help walk you through that. So that's an exciting update on the Deal Hub as well. And let's get rolling, Kenton. So why don't we kind of go into just your entrepreneurial journey and your background? So you went to college, graduated, then kind of got into the military right away, right, man?
Yeah. So, I decided to do ROTC during college for Army, and then I did like the National Guard, kind of the weekend warrior stuff during that as well. And then once I graduated, went full-time active duty, and that took me to Georgia and Texas for a couple of years. So then, after that, I wanted to kind of come back to St. Louis and start the next venture, you know. St. Louis is where I'm from, so.
Gotcha. So, so when you got back from there, how did the military kind of impact you? How did it like change some of your mindset on things? Was there any good takeaways from that?
Oh yeah, a ton. I definitely, whenever I went into it, I knew it was kind of a tough lifestyle to live, especially if you were looking for family and all that down the road. It's a tough one to keep up with, but there's just people from all over the place with all kinds of backgrounds. So I learned a lot. And then, as far as like there's a lot of, hard chargers that were pushing towards their goals. And so whether it was the same goals as mine or different ones, like either way, learned a lot from people that were moving forward. And there actually were a lot of guys that bought some rentals, like they would buy a rental at every base that they stayed,
Well, I didn't know that. That's common there. So there's other industries like firefighters, believe it or not. I don't know if you guys know that, or it's very firefighters to be real estate investors. I didn't realize that military people that was a commonality. What percentage of the guys in the military were buying rentals, you think?
Like on the I would say on the officer side, just the guys that kind of they showed they were the most common to be hard chargers, like pushing forward. And I don't know, a lot of captains, I feel like. So that was like a couple of ranks up, captains and above, they were trying to buy, a property, at least one at every, or the one that they bought when they moved to that, station, they would keep as a rental whenever they moved on.
And
So
like other captains when it's other military people.
yeah, captains were just like guys that had been in, 3 to 8 years. So they kind of, they were 25 to, 32 or whatever. So it was kind of the age that they figured it. They're old enough to figure it out and like thought it was smart. They were over the going out phase and with all the other like young guys right out of college. So
Yeah, I've been
yeah.
for sure. Okay, so
Yeah.
All right, so you got out, and then so like you already did the itch to invest kind of rub off on you because you saw what they were doing? Is that how you got the bug or the investing bug, or how'd you get it?
It actually kind of all started in, believe it or not, in grade school. My basketball coach, he owned a masonry company, so he would build, big new houses, all brick, and he asked my parents if they wanted to go in on a rental together, and so I think I kind of saw them working on it. I just thought it was cool to kind of, go from, a pretty rough looking place to something that's nice and all the, just seeing the work that went on. And so I think it was about when I was 13, I was mowing a lot of lawns. So my parents, I overheard them talking about the down payment on a rental. And I said, what if I pitched in? And I kept some money stashed in like an old school combo briefcase, because I thought it was really cool at the time. And so I pitched in on a rental and kind of, they just gave me like unofficial 10% ownership based on like the down payment I put in from lawn money. So that was really when I caught the bug.
And you were 13 when you did that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, so do you guys still own that rental?
Yeah. My parents bought me out at 18 and, so they wanted me out of it. And they bought out the other, family as well. Like whenever 2008 hit, all the construction, like he wasn't building as many of these, huge houses. And so they just, kind of, had an agreement and got bought out, and everybody was kind of happy they were excited to get full ownership. And then, the other guys were excited to get a little bit of cash to keep everything else floating and moving along. So
cut out their own son, really?
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we're always kind of talking about stuff. I tried to get them out of a duplex that I have recently, and I could tell they were hesitant, so I had to back off and remember it's family.
Yeah.
So
it's always an interesting dynamic. So okay,
yeah.
So 18. So you started out as 13, 18, and then did you do any investing while you were in the military?
The next one I bought was in college, and this one was, one that, just that, I kind of thought it was a good idea. And actually ROTC gave me access to like a lump sum of cash. And so I used that as the down payment. And, I actually have, if I can do a quick little screenshot or screen share here of the house.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it was just one that it was nearby, campus, like within a half mile. I thought it was a smart idea, and I moved in with. Oh, that's my homework. This is it. Can you see that, Jim, and everyone?
I can see the house now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a little, it's got the half story up top, and was near campus, 1639 Miller, and did some projects while I was there, and I rented out there's a 3-bedroom. I had the whole loft area up top, and then I rented out the 2 bedrooms to my buddies, for it was I think $330, a room. So they were happy, I was happy, it was fun. And so yeah, that was in I think junior or senior year of college.
Now, are you selling this one now?
Yeah, we actually went down to get it sold just because it was a tenant turnover. It's out of state, it's in Kentucky. And so we just decided to actually sell it to a guy like us, another investor, sell it as is. So it got us got us the money back, and turned out to be a decent thing. So
That's awesome. So, okay. So you've already kind of been investing a little bit. So then you get out of the military and you're like, okay, I really want to do this. This is what I want to do. So like, walk me through what was going on as you kind of got going where this is more your full-time gig or like, walk me through that.
yeah, I mean, I actually, I got my real estate license, but I guess it all started that I got my series, test passed for being a financial advisor. So it was really just kind of investments as a whole that I was interested in, not necessarily only real estate. But I got those tests and kind of figured I was going to go down that path, and decided not to. And then my mom was like, hey, you always talking about a rental, even though I only had two, I just was interested in them. And she was like, why don't you go into real estate? And yeah, I mean, mom was right on that. And actually, so then I met Dave pretty quickly after going to all these like networking events. I met Dave Stelmacke, and he was the one that really, helped, walk me through properties, what's a deal, what's not a deal. Cause prior to that, I was just buying off the MLS, and, buying them for like 10 grand off sticker price, So he was the one that really kind of showed me the whole thing and how it works. So
Another whole world other than MLS. Okay. Right.
yeah, I had no idea, I didn't even know it existed. So
right. You connected with Dave. And so how many had you done before Three Doors versus, I can't remember now.
Oh, I mean, before Three Doors was like, that was really whenever I started full time and considering it. But I guess it was just the one I had pitched in with my family, that one I just showed you in college. And then I had just bought, like whenever I moved back to St. Louis, bought a duplex that I was living in half in, on one side in Princeton Heights. So that was all I had done. And those weren't really, those were just meant for long-term smart choice, not necessarily a way to make like real money off the bat,
So when you started out, did you put down any like goals, like write down any goals, or like have like a main desire of what you wanted to do within investing, or like how'd you start it out?
I think I started out probably, wanting to have as many rentals as possible, which I do think is still cool. And maybe I'll end up, with I think now it's kind of changed to like a larger apartment complex, would be the ideal thing to own. That way it's kind of a real like business that can, move itself forward rather than a huge portfolio of like single families all around and owner operator stuff. But, I view that as like further down the road. Yeah, I think initially I just kind of was like, this doesn't seem too hard, to buy one, and then, next year buy another, the next year buy another. It just seemed like a pretty approachable way to like do well, overall in life.
So then what were you thinking for like income? Like if you're doing real estate full time, kind of be more of like an agent, like for your income, or what was your plan for that?
Yeah, I joined at Keller Williams on Manchester with Russ Nolting over there first, and then within a month I had met Dave and like, was like, man, I got to get over to Three Doors. So I changed brokerages within that first month, and yeah, so I mean, I was thinking just be an agent and figure out how to know houses better so I could buy some rentals at a better price, and I figured I'd run across one that was a better deal than most, right? And in the meantime, I would just kind of help get clients and do the agent stuff. But whenever I came over to Three Doors, then I was like, man, this is really what I'm interested in is more of the, I don't know, the fixer upper, the create your own spread, negotiate your own deal, and I kind of thought the retail side was like a little bit, I don't know, predictable, even though I hadn't even really done it. So that's not, don't get mad at anybody. But, I just thought in my head, well, it's the same commission. Really, it's not for you. You're just kind of like, I don't know. It seemed a little cookie cutter.
Gotcha. So yeah, you like being able to be creative on deals. Okay. So what was your biggest struggle when you first got going? So you met with us, and, we spent so it was really only about a month then that you kind of got hooked up with Three Doors.
Yeah.
first year, what was like the biggest struggle or obstacle that you had?
I, yeah, I mean, getting going is definitely the toughest part. So, um, I mean, I think that, I mean, really, I didn't realize the level of activity, that you got to keep. I mean, I just thought like, again, with the MLS, it's already a house that is for sale. They're taking offers. They have an agent that responds quickly. Like, that MLS, I mean, there's already a lot of things that have happened before a property gets there. And that's not the case with off market. I mean, you're kind of helping create all those things to where they're actually going to, show up to closing. So I didn't really realize, I kind of thought like, oh yeah, I mean, I show up to a house and like we figure out a deal, and it's probably one out of every two that I get. um, and I just had no idea kind of where to base it off of. And anyway, so yeah, I think in the beginning it was just mainly reps, and I think I was looking for or excited about the idea of hitting a home run on a deal. And what I've kind of come to learn is that I mean, you don't hit a home run. You don't like always go up there looking to hit a home run. You just hit a bunch of singles. You always get up there, swing, and eventually you hit one that really does well. So once I got into that attitude of just doing the rep, getting it done, connecting the dots, getting the house in from one, kind of not so great owner because of how it's been, the house's the current condition, to the next spot, that's my job. So,
Okay, so tell me more about like the activities and the reps. Like specifically, what actions are you talking about when it comes to buying houses?
well, I mean, at least currently the goal now. I mean, currently with COVID and Corona, it's everything's kind of at least short term different, but but really like what the formula has been is for me as acquisition for you all. My goal is to get one a week under contract to buy, which means in order to get one a week, you kind of work backwards, which means that I need to go on about 6 appointments. And then whenever I go back from how do I go on 6 appointments, and I'm kind of giving the transparency because I know everybody's doing kind of something different. But for me, I usually get about like 2 leads from 3 doors, from you all with their marketing. And then there's still 4 appointments that I have to create myself. So then you go back, okay, how can I get that many appointments? And, you realize, hey, probably, I don't know, probably takes like 1.5 hours to get of calling to get an appointment, or you can do different activities, but either way, you still figure out like there's some type of time or money invested in order to get those leads,
Okay, so
and those appointments.
so just additional context for those of you that don't know Kenton. Kenton is a buyer on our acquisition team. So when he's as being a part of the Three Doors Properties team, this is a team that we bought 251 houses last year or whatnot. And it was a key part of that. He's out there hunting for us each and every day. So 2 leads are taken care of for marketing. In order to get those leads for our acquisition team, I can fill in the activity level for that. Direct mail is predominantly what we do, and our direct mail budget, ranges from. I think in January, February, we spent 35 grand each month on the direct mail to get those leads, and kind of fluctuates between 20 and 35 grand. So it's thousands and thousands and thousands of letters and postcards to kind of get down to where Kenton and some of the other buyers on the team each get a couple appointments a week for that. Okay, and so what are you doing specifically to create your own appointments? And here's the deal, guys. Don't hear $35,000 a month and say, oh my God, I have to do that. Because one of our best deals last year, Tanya found, and we bought 47 houses through networking. The cost of acquisition on that was $0. Okay, so don't freak out if you don't have 35 grand to throw into direct mail. There's a lot of different ways to lead generate. So, okay, so the 4 points that you create for yourself, what are you doing on those?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's been about like 2.5 years. Of looking at deals, calling people, going to networking events. So I actually was just redoing my whole database, kind of getting it consolidated, more organized. So I don't know how many agents I kind of check in with, but there's probably 30 or so that are like in my database that I, have either worked a deal with in the past or are just kind of on my, my check-in list. So, but every single property that you look at, that there is an agent involved, now they kind of get, thrown into your database as someone to check up on. So there's definitely agents to call. There's, there's lists to call on, which you can get those, supplied in a lot of different ways. But that's a relatively, cheap or low expense activity. It's just calling on different lists. So, I mean, really, those are my main activities. I did door knock for a while, and I think that's kind of, especially as the weather gets nice, you know, in general, and probably not right now, but um, that's kind of a fun one too. If you just want to like get out, see houses, and kind of connect with the neighborhood.
So there's a new tool we're looking into, guys, that we're probably going to get for our team. We're going to try it out, and we'll let you guys know on it. But door knocking is like we had Mariah on a couple weeks ago, and she found a $400,000 deal through door knocking. So, I mean, what I love about door knocking is not everybody's willing and able to do it, or not able is the wrong word. Not everyone is willing and has the balls to do it, has the courage to do it. And it's especially like on direct mail, like when you send direct mails out, there's a lot of times there'll be like bounce backs where it's like it fails to send, the address just isn't quite right. So if you look at the pool of people going after some of these properties, it's, it might just be you and you, whereas direct mail or pay-per-click or some of the other marketing strategies, like especially pay-per-click, like if you get a lead on pay-per-click, well, they very likely just clicked on the 3 other ads and called the 3 other companies too. So now all of a sudden you're competing with all these other people. And door knock is a really inexpensive, and it's a way to get really deep deals, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so at least for me, I'm not the best. Like, I mean, I've practiced a lot, so I've gotten better at the cold call and kind of talking to anyone. But at least initially, I was pretty uncomfortable with it. So I just tried to pick. I think the best places to door knock are obviously around the area you live, or the area like you want to live. I mean, my wife and I were probably, I don't know, a year and a half away from, buying something and moving. So that's kind of a new thing. Like, hey, my wife and I would love to live in this neighborhood. If you ever consider selling, like, give me a call first. Or, hey, I just bought one down the road, I'm working on it. Or, hey, this listing just went super fast. So just something, people like to hear a little bit of information. So if you can give them something that's not far from them, and you can kind of stretch that little common like blurb that you start out with as much as you want. Even if it's not your listing, you say, hey, I noticed this one down the road. Like, it seemed like there was a lot of activity. Would you consider selling, or whatever it might be? So I try to come up with something that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about talking in that neighborhood,
Yeah. And I mean, with social distancing right now too, like it might be something to, once the dust settles down, I don't know, something that you really want to do right now with how concerned people are, but you can still drive for dollars and skip trace their number and call them as well, or leave like a door hanger or something like that. So let's get back to the activity level really quick. So this is what I'm really curious about. So when you first started out, you said I didn't really think about the activity level that I needed. So now that you've been doing this a while, and just so you know, guys, Kenton is he's a shark. He is like a hunter. The guy did over 50 deals last year. He's very good at buying properties. So what's your activity level look like so if you want to get 1 deal under contract per week, you need to go on 6 appointments. So generating 4 appointments for yourself. Let's just talk about that. So you're cold calling.
Yeah, I mean, my typical week looks like about 6 hours of cold calling to get brand new stuff in the pipeline, and then which doesn't sound like a lot whenever you think, oh, hey, how many hours are in a week? So I mean, everybody can kind of have a different mix, but at this point, like the database in my CRM has, a lot of follow-up. So people that have already been introduced, or, they went with a different buyer, but that buyer fell out, and then now we're still talking. So there's just a ton of like that follow-up once it builds. You spend a lot of time doing that. And then, really, I mean, if you're going on 6 appointments, you're analyzing 6 houses, which takes,
So
you know, a,
doing, so sorry, one quick question. So
yeah.
you're outbound cold calling for 6 weeks and you're doing follow-up calls, or you're just spending 6 hours a week on the phone, like whether that's follow-ups or cold calling?
No, 6 hours for just cold calling. The follow-up stuff, I don't. At one point, I was kind of keeping track of hours, but now I just try to stay current. Which kind of the CRM is an easy category to see if I'm behind or current on. So I would say there's between calling people that I've been on an appointment with, and giving them feedback, making offers on the phone, and then the follow-up. I don't know if there's like probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 hours of that per week.
So about half your week is just on the phone talking to people or trying to get a hold of people.
Yeah. On a week when I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There's always, some tough ones, just like everybody experiences.
And then you analyze properties in your other time. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me on this is like how simple this business really is. We get caught up in, I got to learn all this stuff about like creative financing of subject twos. I got to learn all this different stuff. And then you forget to make money in real estate is really simple. Like spend time lead generating, negotiating deals, going on appointments. And like that's really, I mean, Kenton just walked through his activities and we just did it in 5 minutes. And that's pretty much what you do on a given week. And if you get, it's a numbers game. If you get your calls in and you get your follow-ups in, you're gonna get one per week, and that's the goal. So talk to me about follow-up and why you're so geared towards on that, because I think beginning investors this is a mistake I think beginning investors make. And they want to flip-flop it. They want to spend probably 15, 20 hours trying to generate new leads. And they don't really want to follow up that much. So give me some more context on that.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that you guys probably have the exact data on this, but, we find that very few people kind of call a mailer and then want to sell tomorrow, or even if they say that, like very few actually do that. I don't know if it's, 10 or 20% of the people that call in, they might sell within 2 weeks or something. I don't know, or agree on a contract within 2 weeks. But, that leaves a huge percentage of people that, they reached out to kind of, put a feeler out there, or, even a legal thing of like probate, or the family's not ready to sell, or, all these kinds of things that keep them from selling, within that 2 to 4 week period. So, those are huge opportunities that that they want to, that they will. And at some point, if you keep following up for a long time, you act like, you're kind of buddies, right? You say, hey man, I've been, calling you for 6 months now. I feel like I'm a part, feel like we got a relationship going here. What do you think? And you just kind of, at some point you try to get them engaged in a different level. If you keep on having the same combo with them and they're like, I'm not ready. Oh, I'm trying to clean it out. I've been getting people to clean it out. I'll just say something like, hey, it's been like, 10 months since I started talking to you, and I can understand that, a lot goes on. Like, are you really wanting to clean it out? Because, I don't think you really have to. And I've said this before, but sometimes you just have to keep resetting, keep saying the same stuff, and kind of challenge them gently, but to push them forward.
Okay. So you said, so let's back up so as far as the follow-up goes, if you're doing it right, really 70 to 80% of your deals should really be from over a month's worth of follow-up on these things.
Yeah, and actually one that just closed I think it was last week, Jarema, but it's a tear down in Baldwin, and we teamed up with a builder who's going to build it. And I door knocked on that. It was during winter. It was cold. It was like kind of towards the beginning of when I started. So I was like really getting out there, and it's been about, I think, a year and a half that I've been keeping up with him. And he was worried about these 2 cars in the garage that he couldn't move. And even now, we closed on it, and we still had to give him like 10 days of possession to move the cars out. But he didn't do, I mean, it was the same thing for a year and a half, you know? So anyway, at some point I was like, yeah, hey man, it's been a year and a half talking to you. I enjoy it, but I would like to, you know, figure out, like, should we keep talking? Like, what, you know, can we buy it? So I just kind of challenged him. But yeah, I mean, that was a year and a half of follow-up that at least, it finally converted. But that gave me, I mean, nobody knew coming in was going to have like the status that I had, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because I'd been talking to him for a year and a half. So like he was referring to me, he was calling me, you know, if anything popped up. I mean, so anyway, I was like, he was either not going to sell or he was going to sell to me. Those were kind of the 2 options, you know, because I had followed up so long with him.
You built the rapport. And so what's interesting, guys, and people get stuck. I just call it like a stuck. I forget, I got that from somebody or something, but like you get stuck all the time. Like I was stuck on something in marketing, and then I had a friend say, well, why don't you try and do it a different way? And I was like, oh, that's so obvious. It's the easiest thing ever. Why didn't I see that? Why was I stuck on this for like 3 months? And part of our job is to get people unstuck. So if you can figure out that the cars are an issue, in this case, it doesn't sound like you offered them any options, but you could have potentially said, hey, well, if that's the only reason why you're stuck, why don't we just buy it with the cars in it, give me the titles, and I'll take care of figuring out how to move on.
And that was what I offered. It was a year and a half of trying to figure out a way, but he was using them as an excuse, you know, like that was kind of his convenient thing.
Yeah. So that's what he's saying, but why is he really stuck? Why is he really not moving forward with this?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so the follow-up, that's a big deal. 70-80% of the deals through over a month of follow-up. Using a technology, a CRM to help you do that, keep you sorted with that. So that's important too. And then, okay, so let's go back to this. So we need to get on the deal. I want to talk about one more thing before we get to the deal deep dive. You're on the phone a lot now, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, but he said, hey, at first I didn't really like it, and I had some reservations with it. Kenton is not an extroverted person, guys. If Kenton can do this phone thing, anybody can, because Kenton's more of a logical, analytical type of guy. He does not fit your stereotypical boisterous person that's wants to talk to everybody, and so don't have that limiting belief that you can't do it either. So Kenton, like talk me through that mindset and how you kind of had that pivot on doing it anyway when you're uncomfortable and how you've grown there. Like, so let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, I really, there were some cool experiences from the Army, but like I did not, you know, ever consider kind of staying in longer or wanting to go back, you know. So I guess whenever I kind of realized the amount of kind of calling and talking with people that does, you know, wear me out a bit, because it's kind of not my personality as much, but I just kind of, you know, did a reality check of like the alternatives, you know, and like, hey, if I don't want to do this, like, what am I going to go back? Like, not that I didn't have other options, but what would I prefer more? And honestly, I mean, I think, you know, the fun of figuring out how to make a deal work, the fun of, you know, kind of seeing it go through or go to different hands that are going to move it forward. I mean, that was something that I, you know, just fundamentally, I just thought it was worth it. You know, I like houses enough. I like real estate enough. I think I'm going to be in it, you know, for a long time. So, I mean, calling and talking to people, whether they're a retail client, a seller, a contractor, you know, I mean, all of that is inherent in the business, you know? So no matter kind of what facet you're working in, like calling, negotiating on the phone, you know, getting people to kind of move forward, you know, being a part of that, like with them, you know, I mean, that's all it's got to happen, you know? So I just kind of saw it as a mandatory thing. And whenever you do that, at least for me, that's kind of my logical part of like, it's mandatory. and then I can like learn to enjoy it, but in the beginning I was kind of fighting like, do I have to do this? And maybe it's optional, and it's just kind of not.
What percentage of people when you call and talk to are just complete and utter assholes?
It's pretty small. I mean, there were some that are kind of confused and like you catch them at a wrong time, but like, you can't blame them. I mean, people do that to me, and I'm sure I'm like, what, it just kind of answer a little bit more like off guard and defensive. But that doesn't make you an asshole. There's really only like, I don't know, maybe I'd say 5% or less that are really like actually kind of mad about you doing it. And they're really not mad at you. They're mad at a lot of other stuff. Just you called.
Yeah, so they take it out on you. So one of the things that Eric and I talk a lot about too is like when you send out direct mail, I think this is related. Like you will get some calls where people are like, "Don't ever send me one again. I hate you." Like just some angry calls. And the way that I kind of view it almost as like a kind of like a servant's attitude. One of the things that have helped me, I have cold called before. The thing that really helped me out was okay, if I have to deal with less than 5% of jerks, I really believe in what I do. I really believe in helping people get unstuck that are stuck. And some people are so stuck that the only way to reach them is through sending a letter or calling them and cold calling them. And if I can get in front of them, I can build the rapport, I can build a relationship and help unstuck this person and help them move on with their life. Well, I'm being selfish if I don't make this call because I'm putting myself and my own insecurities and my own and my own comfort ahead of that person and serving that person and helping them.
Well, and I do think that like, again, if you made one call and it was one bad call and they were mad at you, then yeah, I mean, 100% of your calls went bad, right? But, I was calling on probate for a while with Dave Stelmacki, and I mean, that's, you're talking to people that are friends with family of someone who passed away pretty recently, and it's a very valid way to like buy houses, right? I mean, they sell almost all the time, or 100% of the time. It's very high percentage that they sell. And obviously, I mean, I get the sensitivity to it, but we've helped enough people, with that scenario that it kind of validates, whatever effort I'm doing, to try to get a hold of them. So, I mean, and I would, there's times I'd apologize. Hey, I realize this is, this might feel invasive. I've helped a lot of people here in St. Louis. If you change your mind, then, give me a call or,
And it's worth it. It's worth it to deal with that jerk so you can help that next person out that really needs your help. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into the deal deep dive. And actually, it looks like we have, okay, so the question came across, what CRM do you use? Podio, yep. Yeah, and absolutely. And we can, we'll probably do a systems training here in the next quarter or so as well on this because we haven't really hit on that here recently. But okay, so let's go to the deal deep dive, man. So Ryan, where's Ryan at?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay, so Ryan, why don't you unmute yourself?
Yeah, and
all right. Can I get a copy?
We got
loud and clear.
It is
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
So Ryan's a network partner, and you can't tell from the screen, but he's like one of the tallest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. Are you 6'8" or 6'10"?
6'8".
He's only 6'8".
Only 6'8".
But anyway, so yeah, let's get into this deal, guys. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'll kind of start it off, but I'll actually share my screen and then I'll pass it over to Ryan. But this house is up by the airport. It's in Hazelwood. It's a kind of a lower price point area. I think, Jim, can you give me a thumbs up? You see my screen? Okay. So these are the photos that I took.
Cool.
And, of the place. So, she's a doozy. She's a beaut, Clark. Just a really simple house. And, there were some things about it that, here, I'll show you the interior.
What was the lead gen on this? How did we find it?
Yeah, I'll go into that here in a second. I got the Podio lead, so I'll kind of show the whole input, But I mean, you can see, after looking at the house, it needs a good amount of work. Almost every system needs to at least be kind of touched in a way. And here's the kitchen. I mean, it's a pretty rough place. It needs some love. And, so then this I got the Podio lead pulled up here. But basically, this is kind of, a little back view as to how our CRM works. But, I mean, this is kind of how the lead came in. This is me who it was assigned to, received from. So this is Eric. He answers our calls, inbound calls. This is the letter. Yeah, this is kind of a little short form for whatever exact mailer and like kind of message on that piece of marketing went out. And then this is all her info. Kind of funny, some of the notes that like Eric put in there. Ex-husband's house, concrete home. I talked to Jeremy on behalf of Amy, not sure why. So I kind of knew going into it that we were going to have some issues with like title work and figuring it out. But I knew that, just from working with Ryan, I mean, I knew that he really liked, this price point. He likes, rentals, and he likes to get in them at a low price and then do some work himself and with some buddies, and then rent them back out or, flip them as kind of, a really affordable house that somebody can buy. So anyway, for me, I met the gal one time, in her house. I looked around it. I kind of knew, I tried to think who would this be a good fit for. I knew that Ryan would likely be interested in it. And then I gave him a call. I picked him up at one of his rentals and I said, hey, you want to join me on the second appointment that I went out there? And I had called the gal and I said, hey, I don't know what you're prepared for, but are you prepared for something, okay. I think I said, oh, go ahead, Jim.
Hold on. Like I think you're pretty advanced at this now. And I want to slow you down a little bit.
Okay.
So you went on the appointment first.
Yeah.
Then you thought through this on this specific deal. You decided, okay, I want to bring an end buyer in on the second appointment. What was why? Because like you don't always do this on every deal that you do. So why on this particular deal did you decide, hey, I need to bring that end buyer in? Like what take me through your logic on that?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that at least for our model and kind of our contractors, like paying to get things flipped, I just knew this price point was going to be hard for us to work at. So, I mean, it was something that you could buy, in the thousands or like in the teens, put money into, and then it could probably be worth, I don't know what we had talked about. Like, I know Ryan and I went through it, but maybe like 70 or I don't know, let's just say 70 grand at the end. At least for us, that doesn't really, it's a little bit too low on the price point scale. So I just thought, hey, I need to find someone that, that it could work for, their model and someone that like is working on these types of properties. So I did kind of think of the buyer,
okay,
for the property.
So to recap that, guys, the lower price point on this does not fit Three Doors Properties buy box, like our buy criteria. It's just not a great fit. So then that's why he said, okay, well, we have a relationship with a network partner that this fits really well with. Okay, let's just go ahead and just bring him in up front on the appointment. Okay, sweet. Okay,
yeah,
keep going, man. Great.
So yeah, we went to. I picked up Ryan at one of his rentals. He was painting it, getting it ready for a tenant, and took him on the appointment with me. And I had called the homeowner prior and had a conversation, so that way I thought it was very likely we could come up with, an agreement on this second appointment and get it signed. So, I mean, honestly, this is kind of where I wanted to switch to Ryan and kind of get his thoughts on what he was planning on doing with the property. And then like, I guess what, how he thought that second appointment went, cause he was sitting right there. He was actually sitting in like cross-legged on the floor, waiting for me and the homeowner were talking. So.
Yeah, and it went by, thanks, Kenton, and it went by, it went well, so well and so smooth. much more intuitive and with flow with it, and than even the way that you're describing it, to have to give structure back to it. But I am a full-time real estate investor, been full-time since the beginning of this year. Right now I own 15 rentals. I have 3 under contract, and I have an offer in on one, which I haven't heard back yet. I like to buy at a real low price point, real cheap in North County. I have 4 guys that work part-time for me, and let the wholesalers bring the deals to me. So I was very excited and happy that Kenton picked me up and brought me along to the second appointment for the Missouri Bottom property. And it was a great experience for me. I got to see what a wholesaler does. And at the end of the appointment, as Kenton and I were driving away, I told them that this is like training level quality, because of the way that Kenton handled the conversation and the negotiation with the homeowner, and the way the homeowner had contributed her part to the negotiation and the conversation surrounding that. She was very easygoing and very flexible with all the terms of the transaction.
Jim, what do you want to?
Yeah. So okay. So just a quick, give us like a little bit more details on the actual appointment and what on the kind of the flow of what Kenton did with the homeowner, like from your perspective.
Yeah. We took a tour of the property first, interior, exterior, and then Kenton and I talked about what price I'd like to buy it at, and I said I'm comfortable buying it in the low teens, and then I observed or shadowed Kenton's conversation with the homeowner, and he reviewed some of the previous ground that they had covered about the transaction, and the condition of the home, reasons for selling, and then he moved the conversation towards a buy price with her. And there is really not that much to it, Jim, because this particular homeowner was so flexible. She just wanted to move on, had been living here for a while, but she married into the home from what I remember. So she has had no economic contribution to the home, either for acquisition or repairs, as she has lived there. It appears that no repairs were done. And so she seems comfortable at whatever price Three Doors was willing to offer her.
She definitely was, whenever we talk about motivation, I mean, she was one that was kind of wore it on her sleeve a bit. So, it was definitely, the conversation I had when I was leaving, I said, hey, I am going to look at numbers and whatnot, but, my gut tells me below 10, so below $10,000. And that just kind of tells you the price point of what this place was at. But whenever I sat down with her the second time with Ryan there, I had told her, hey, I know whenever we left, I was talking about below 10, and, and I said, I think I can give you more than 5, but in between those two numbers, what do you feel like you need in order to afford, a moving truck and a deposit on a rental? That's where she was going to move. So that was, it was almost a little bit like she picked her price within very kind of tight parameters, but yeah. I think it did. Since then we've had title, trouble and working through it, but she hasn't been hard to work with, so I do think at least getting her to kind of pick the price of what we sell it, what she sold it for, she picked 8. I think that at least, has kind of helped her mentally, like, be on board, with some of these other issues, and just being, interacting and trying to keep the ball moving forward on getting it to closing.
Okay. So
yeah,
the rare 10 to 20%, that are just, they're hot to trot. They're so motivated that really the over 30 days worth of follow-up's just not needed. Okay. So talk to me a little bit. We have a little bit more time. Let's just go into, so this deal has not closed yet. So so one of the things you can find on your deals is you can do everything right. You can get it all lined up, and then title issues can come up. So I love this example because this is something that especially if they're on the newer side. So what's going on with it now?
Yeah, I mean, the spot where it's at now is that, I mean, okay, when it comes to title work, I did know from conversations prior to her, prior to actually getting on a contract, and I talked to Ryan about this, that, we were a little confused about all the, she was married to him and then he got remarried, his like new wife, and then he passed away. His like new wife is okay with the ex-wife like getting the property. We knew it was confusing, but if you call a title company, honestly, they don't they don't work on files until they have a contract, really. So it was kind of like, even though we knew we were expecting issues and we would like to get ahead of them, you can't really get a lot of clarity until you get something on paper, an offer, and you send it to the title company, and then that's whenever you start to get some clarity on like what needs to happen to get it to closing. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's a little bit of a reactive, process when it comes to title work.
Okay.
It's good to know all of that. That way I could have that combo with Ryan and we could make sure everybody was on the same page and that he was okay with, potentially being patient on the purchase. So it is important to know all that stuff. That way you can have a happier ride to closing, but you can't really get ahead of it like legal wise or paperwork wise. You just have to kind of wait for the title company to give you feedback on it.
Yeah. How long has the title issues been going on now for?
Ryan? A month and a half, 2 months?
I think a month and a half. We were scheduled to close on St. Patrick's Day, which would have been 45 days out from when the contract was signed. So I think it got signed within the first week of February.
Yeah.
And then on your guys' end, what are you guys doing now to help kind of get this to the closing table? Like what is your scope of work transition to? Like what are you physically doing now to?
I mean, for me, it is calling, the gal that signed our paperwork. It's hard to even call her the homeowner. Exactly. I don't know. But calling Amy is her name and then she's conversing directly with the other, the other wife and Margaret. And so, I'm just kind of keeping it moving by saying, hey, Amy, like, is Margaret still being helpful? Would it be helpful if I called her? Is the title company, making it clear on what needs to be done? So I'm just trying to make sure that there's nothing, in between, like any real obstacles or like communication failures. But I mean, fundamentally, someone that is not receiving the benefit or the proceeds of the house is the person that we need to help us sign paperwork. So that's just fundamentally, it's a hard thing, right? Like, hey, help us do these extra things. And you already like agreed with the other gal that like, you're not going to get paid. You're going to allow the money to go to her. So,
There, yeah.
That's kind of a tough one to keep it moving. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing too is like on these deals when you get your hands on them, like I mean, just do everything you can to keep moving forward, right? And don't just like let it go until like it's like officially dead. Because sometimes the title issues and stuff can come up to where you do have a dead deal. So what are your odds on this? What do you think? You think it's likely to close just a matter of when, or?
Close your ears, Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I think, part of with title issues, the thing is that they're going to pop up whether we're in the agreement or it's the next buyer or the next, so like there's fundamentally a problem there that needs to be fixed. So, as far as, that seller, like they have to do these things, required for them to sell to anybody, So I definitely, I've had people kind of get mad at me with title issues. Like, what the heck, you're doing this. And then you say, I need that. And I'm like, it's a hard conversation to have because it's not me, even though they associate me with that problem. And honestly, it's all stuff that they've created, over weird transactions or not doing probate, not doing these things that are required. So, I think we're still, I think we'll still get there, but it's a long while. I mean, at least for me, that's why I highly value, someone like Ryan, who, we had that conversation up front. I don't think either one of us could have known, how long it might take and where it would exactly lead. But, we did know from the beginning that he was on board to kind of stick it out. And that wasn't a surprise, I mean, it's always a little bit tough to kind of keep people obligated for a long time, but sometimes it's how it has to go. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, no, that's just fine with me. I've worked with these crazy title issues before, and for me to deal strong enough that I will hang with it and we'll buy it. And that's one of the benefits, is that Kenton knows me. He knows that I'm committed and that I will buy what I say I will buy. And so in between the time, I have bought other deals. I had spent the money set aside for this house on other deals, but the money to buy this is coming in over the next few weeks. So it'll be ready and available whenever the title work is finished out and the property is then able to be sold.
And Jim, I mean, with title issues, it obviously could be a lot bigger deal if it was a $200,000 house, and you're planning on, borrowing $100,000 for rehabbing it. Obviously there's a lot more resources. You can't just put like a dog ear in it and hang out, with kind of $300,000. Have you borrowed it already? Have you not? Are you paying interest? Are you not? Is your lender mad? Are they cool with hanging on? So there definitely are times where, luckily this one, because of the price point, because of Ryan, it is like lower pressure in general on the situation. But it definitely, these conversations become even more important whenever you raise the price point and kind of raise the resources that are, dog-eared for a project. So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, hey guys, we're right at time. Is there anything closing remarks either of you can think of as far as this deal goes? What do you guys think? Or are we good?
No, I mean, I appreciate the chance to talk about it. I definitely, value the relationships that can be formed in this group, So, I mean, that's what I value. We do rehab some, obviously, properties, but there are a lot that we move on to others and other network partners. So I would just kind of like to be able to connect, even more so with everybody's kind of idea. Ryan is very specific on what he wants. It'd be nice to kind of have a, full picture. So I'm looking to connect with more people on that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Kenton's the man and Ryan's a great individual as well. We appreciate you guys. And I'm going to, Ryan, do you have any closing thoughts? I'm going to mute my mic because I have a call coming in.
Yeah, just that this was a lot of fun. This was my first Wednesday morning training, but I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot, got a ton of value out of it, even as someone who has been doing this full time for a year, and someone who has his hands in a lot of the different technical aspects of real estate. So thank you very much, Kenton. I appreciated it and learned a ton of very good use of my time.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Jim, you taking us out?
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for contributing, pouring value into the group. I really do appreciate that. We have the normal routine Thursday and Friday, group coaching at 12:30, and then Friday free for all in the morning. Stay safe, guys. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. And Kenton and Ryan, thanks again, man. I really appreciate your time. Zoom high five. Peace out. See you guys. Have a nice one.
Hey guys, Jim Manning here. If you got any value at all out of the training today, I just wanted to let you know that we have a tremendous amount of resources available for you at your fingertips. All you have to do is go to 3doors.com/webclass and sign up for the next step to get those additional resources. The web class is amazing. It goes over some of the extra resources that we have for individuals that are looking to grow their business. It talks about some of the mistakes that I've made that you don't have to make as well, because I'm sharing them with you and teaching you how to avoid those mistakes. And it really talks about kind of the secret sauce behind why so many of our network partners are having such tremendous success and dramatically outproducing what industry standards are. So you're going to want to check it out. You'll be really happy that you did. It's a really valuable class. It's taken me hundreds of hours to develop it into what it is today, and it's free for you. So all you have to do is just go to 3doors.com/webclass. Check it out. You won't regret that you did.